Hi, this is Ruth Brown from Heavy Reading, part of Omdia, and today I'm speaking with Rick Fulwiler. Welcome.
Hi, Ruth. Nice meeting you again. Yeah.
Great to have you. Always fantastic to chat with NETSCOUT. So today at Mobile World Congress, obviously loads of signage about AI, and we're going to talk about AI and telecoms, what it can do. So I suppose first question really to get into is about what's going to be essential for telecoms, really? How is it going to help operations?
So I think that's a great question, and I think obviously we've always talked about the digital revolution, right, and digital transformation, especially as the carriers started migrating to 5G standalone. I think now we're seeing probably the next evolutionary stage of how do we start injecting AI technology. Whether it's AI technology in terms of receiving information related to the data we're getting off the network, or taking that information and sending it to more of a encompassing AIOps kind of environment, where we're not only taking information off the network, but we're actually combining that information with subscriber information. We're looking at it in terms of trouble ticketing information, configuration information. So I think there is going to be a huge transformation of how we start leveraging this, because really I think AI is going to be the next evolution in terms of looking at the network from a live perspective, of a living, breathing type of network.
Mm-hmm. So typically these sort of evolutions that you're talking about as well, they don't happen overnight, but I'm wondering what you can share in terms of what you think will be like the short-term wins and then the longer-term wins in terms of, get a better performance, resiliency, optimization.
Right. So I think in general, when we look at the adoption of leveraging AIOps, or we're looking at the adoption of leveraging just AI in general, one of the first things is about automation, right? Because we think about this transformation going into 5G, especially 5G standalone. You look at it from a service assurance perspective, obviously NETSCOUT service assurance. So we think about all additional KPIs. There's literally probably 400 additional KPIs we're bringing to visibility now related to not only just 5G, but obviously 5G standalone brings the slicing element along with it too. So how do we automate that loads of information, right? How do we not have human beings staring at multiple different screens? How do we not have human beings looking at all these KPIs? So the first thing I think is about automating the visibility of that information. And I think automating that visibility allows us to solve problems faster. Whether it's done with artificial intelligence directly on top of the data, or we're taking that data and piping it back into a curated AI pipeline into an AIOps environment. It's all about automation and getting things done much faster with information that we're providing. I think over time, we're going to see probably another evolutionary stage. If we kind of think of the 5G network like the studies in biology related to epigenetics, we think about epigenetics, we're looking at how the environment actually changes the way people and humans live inside of their genome, right? And so because of that, we think of the 5G network, especially the standalone 5G network, more as a living, breathing network. It has elasticity, it can scale up, it can scale down, but something needs to guide it, something needs to orchestrate that network. And I think AI is going to be the level of orchestration that we're going to be providing that's going to be able to do that. Especially when we look at, how do we decide what information is relevant off of the network, looking at it from a network probe and service perspective. I think we're going to see the transformation of being able to have the AI engine say, I need this data off the network related to these use cases. So you have this kind of closed loop environment. You have the AI engine actually communicating back to the network level probes, the network level probes communicating back to the AI engine saying, here's the information you've asked for. You can see the dynamic scalability of the network related to that. You can see the network scale up, scale down based upon the amount of needs and resources it may need for, say, slicing or other enterprises that are driving the network.
So in terms of making it happen practically, we've seen, as we came into 5G, a lot of changes to do with visibility, especially sort of east-west observability issues. Already we're unlocking that, and I know NETSCOUT have done a lot of work in that area. Where are we in terms of getting from the traditional, service assurance that we've used in previous generations to this much more modern, much more straight away, automated, AI-driven NetOps approach? We going to go per use case? Are we taking, certain aspects that we want to fix first? What is your thoughts on that?
So I think we're seeing kind of a crawl, walk, run. I mean, obviously you made a great point about in terms of just acquiring the traffic off of the network, right? NetSCOUT itself went through its own kind of transformational process in terms of being able to migrate from where the NEMs were with dedicated appliances, from dedicated appliances to virtual machines to container network functions. Now leveraging more of a cloud native kind of environment with extended Berkeley packet filter capability, eBPF. So that gives us a much more cloud-native way of being able to acquire that traffic. As we acquire that traffic, obviously there's a couple different alternatives we have. One is being able to curate that information, to be able to send it to an AIOps environment. And I think that's a real important concept to understand. In the past, what we've seen is just sending bulk level of information to kind of a big data environment, expect kind of magical things to happen. Now, the AIOps is asking for very specific information, curated for very specific use cases. And I think you can see multiple different streams of data being sent to multiple different ecosystems. So some of the ecosystems may be set up for mitigation, for security insurance, being able to send traffic to, say, a policy engine or to a device that's going to provide policy. You could be seeing it for preventative maintenance kind of environments, things like that. So I think there's a lot of use cases. But the real key to this is how do I look at it from an end-to-end perspective? How do I look at what's taking place in terms of the radio access network? How do I look at it from what's taking place into the core network at the edge, along with that other data sources? And that's really going to be, I think, the key, right? Because we provide a lot of rich information, but there's other data sources that need to be combined together. As we talked about trouble ticketing information when customers report issues, how do I know that those issues that a customer is reporting is already seen by, say, my AIOps engine already? And I should say, oh, fine, I understand that. These trouble tickets should actually be closed. I'm working on it right now. So we need that kind of closed loop environment where all this information is available to the AIOps environment, and it can decide, how do I look at the information holistically? I think that's really going to be the key.
Yeah. So do we also see, so we've got AIOps, we've got a lot of processes within there. You spoke about, sending the data and the feeds to the right location to use it well. How do we see this not proliferating extra tools and being able to actually cut through the complexity that we've seen, with all these silos of different actions?
I think that's a perfect point. In fact, I was talking to one of our customers, and just on the radio access part alone, they have over 100 different tools they're looking at today. Yeah. And you think about that, that is mind-blowing, right? I mean, how do you know of all those 100 different choices, which tool do I go to first to be able to solve customer real problems, right? And I think there's going to be this consolidation process that's going to have to take place. I mean, there's no way you can, maintain 100 different types of tools or having the right level of knowledge to know which tool to go to. So from a consolidation perspective, I think as we go through this transformational process, the AI engine is going to learn, what information is required, what problem am I trying to solve. I think a lot of this is going to be driven by more of an agent type of environment, right? I mean, we always kind of have, and we've seen this out there in the space before, where there's this kind of I wouldn't say the word conflict, but there's discussion about, how do I leverage LLMs related to RAG, and how does that comply or converse against what's taking place related to the agent capability, right? So agents are really more task-oriented, but I think there's a combination of how do I leverage agents along with LLMs and RAGs, because at the end of the day, I want to have this human interaction, right? I want to be able to say, here's what I think could be the problem, or tell me how this market is behaving, right? But I need a holistic view of the market. I need to know everything about that market. So the LM can provide that chat interface. It can provide, but it's going to require additional level information. So I think this is where the RAG is going to be able to go out and require information from the network. It's going to require information from other data sources. And then the agent's going to say, based upon what I saw, I can make non-deterministic kind of next level tasks. I can go off and do this. I can go off and do this based upon that information. So I think that's going to be the evolutionary process of how do I have non-deterministic logic drive basically task-oriented things. So just as you look at things today, as I look at KPIs, I decide, this is call drops. Is it related to the radio access network? Is it related to the signaling network? Is it related to the IMS signaling network? Well, I have to go through a human process to be able to think about that. And as I think about that, that may drive me down another task. And I really think this is where agents are going to start driving it. It's going to allow them to have the autonomy to go off and deliver different task-oriented systems based upon what it's seeing on the information that's being provided. And obviously, I think a lot of that information is going to come from today, packet-level information we're getting off the network, right? But not only just from service assurance. I think there's a huge market out there for looking at it from visibility in terms of monetization. I think it's going to be great in terms of network exposure interfaces. And we think about this, we saw what's going on with Kamara today and some other things that's taking place. Being able to expose information out of the network to upper level systems through kind of a monetization kind of environment. I think this is really going to be interesting because now you could have a network exposure function say, I need the following information. AIOps or the AI engine says, okay, here's the information you need. Now let me go back to the sources that are providing the information and drive just that information. So you really truly have this closed loop system where you have the network exposure interfaces communicating to the AIOps environment now reporting back to the probing architecture that's grabbing information and only delivering the information that's required for that particular use case.
So we've talked about some of the use cases, which is great, and you've already mentioned, network exposure. But do you see all of these use cases being built at the same time by the service provider, or which ones do you think will be prioritized first?
Sure, I think it's going to be a little bit of a crawl, walk, run kind of process. I think it's also going to be a little bit departmentalized. I think in general, when you look at the operators, they're going to be building use cases that relates to certain types of departments or certain types of functionality. And I think, obviously there's going to be, core use cases. I think there's going to be tons of radio access use cases. I think there's going to be also, in fact, we just worked with one of our customers here very recently with a use case around how do I take information I'm getting off the network as it relates to problems that are taking place and correlate that back to trouble tickets that are coming in. So I have the visibility of trouble tickets. Now I have a visibility to what we're seeing from a service assurance perspective and correlating that together. I think that's going to be a very key use case right now because I think that's probably very much low-hanging fruit that we see out there. I think as the network starts to grow and this transformation more to kind of a living, breathing kind of organism we talked about, I think we're going to see a more holistic approach. So then we bring in the radio access, we bring in the core visibility, we bring in what's taking place in the edge, we bring in terms of information that's being asked for from those network exposure functions. We're looking at also at the same time dynamic slicing capabilities. So this living, breathing organism needs to be controlled. I think AIOps is going to deliver a huge part of that.
Yeah, well, thanks, Rick. It's always really insightful speaking to you. So thank you for sharing, your views and sort of what's happening in NETSCOUT. And look forward to watching this space.
I definitely appreciate it. And it's nice working with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.